Hello to whom this video may concern and good tidings. My name is Rai Lemana and today I would like to talk about an amazing documentary titled Hope for the King of the Skies. As you can see in the title, it is a documentary about Philippine eagles. Now you may ask yourself, well, Rai, what does it talk about specifically? What does it look like? Who are the main characters and what experience will I be expecting for this documentary? Well, luckily for you, I am here to help you out. So, without further ado, let's get this presentation started. Okay, so directed by Mika Galik, this 17-minute documentary presents the collaborative work of Czech and Filipino zoologists to inseminate the endangered Philippine eagles and save their population. This documentary was published on January 28, 2025 by the Liberec Zoo in the Czech Republic on their YouTube channel. The filmmaker provides a behind the scenes look at how these experts managed to artificially inseminate these eagles and the challenges that come with it, as well as going over the country to capture footage of these majestic creatures, hosting seminars in local universities, and going over potential habitats for these eagles once they are in a proper state of being released back into the wild. In the documentary, the filmmaker is providing a window into how these experts are essentially contributing to the ever growing effort of protecting the national bird of the Philippines. So, this film is a classic example of one of Bill Nichols' expository modes where the filmmaker serves to educate the audience about the process of Philippine eagle insemination. Now, according to Nichols, an American film critic, there are six modes in which a documentary can be classified: expository, observational, participatory, reflexive, poetic, and performative. For most documentaries, especially nature centered documentaries, or rather, for most modern documentaries, the expository mode is arguably the most popular used by filmmakers. This one is no exception, given that the film's main objective is to clearly educate its audience about have them be passive receivers of information, not to mention that most expository documentaries are centered on research facts while leaving little room for subject opinions. This classification is highly reflected in the techniques used in the documentary, and I'll be going over them one by one just for you. Now, as the narrator uses the voice of God to guide the audience through the documentary with their scripted commentary, the experts also provide their insights on the subject matter. Typical for most nature documentaries, both the narrator and experts have an authoritative tone while discussing the science behind insemination and the biology and personalities of Philippine eagles. The primary purpose of the narration here is to essentially complement the footage and emphasize the success of their year long work. They don't put themselves in the spotlight, they are helping put the Philippine eagles into it instead. The narration doesn't take over the entire documentary, they essentially enrich it. Next, for the camera techniques, along with a few handheld and aerial shots, the camera techniques are mostly comprised of static shots, with little to no movement, standing stationary to capture the footage. Now, there are a variety of camera angles being used for this documentary, such as close up shots, long shots, and establishing shots. However, again, they are very static. The filmmaker is letting the environment and the events do the movement without having them to do any complicated panning shots or dolly zooms or whatever. Next, for the editing style, shots and scenes follow a linear progression of events that do not jump from one place to another without being bound to the main context. Now, to really get the audience to follow the information being presented to them, it's highly important not to confuse or overwhelm them with too many cuts that don't really make sense when you put them together. Which is why there is a continuity in the flow of the scenes and shots that fundamentally shape the main theme of the documentary. Everything is logically put into place, and all unnecessary scenes that don't contribute to the story are taken out. Now, for the sound, accompanied only by background music, the filmmaker relies on the actual sounds, letting the narrator, featured experts, and the natural environment do the speaking for the entirety of the film. When you watch a documentary for yourself, you'll find that there are no sound effects to be found. The background music is instrumental, so you don't really have to worry about lyrics blocking out the narration. Not to mention the natural sounds of the Philippine eagles in the forest really puts the audience into perspective on the mesmerizing sights and sounds of the Philippine environment. Now, lastly, due to the main focal point being the experts concerned with the Philippine ego, the filmmaker doesn't really have a presence in any of the scenes at all. Most likely, the filmmaker themselves is the one holding the camera. Their camera is directly pointed at them, the characters, the environment, and everything that isn't, well, them. Which brings me to my next and final point. This documentary is an emotional and educational story of experts continually seeking to help save the Philippine eagles from the dangers of extinction. It emphasizes a simple approach to the subject to drive home the importance of environmental conversation or conservation, the hope for Philippine eagles, and the collaboration of Filipinos nationwide to do so. You get me? The documentary is so simple yet so impactful in that it is driven by this subjective desire to promote the conservation of Philippine eagles by going through these objective facts and observations. Through a structured and authoritative manner, this expository documentary really invokes a sense of wonder and inspiration within the audience to consider that these eagles are part of our identity. They are unique to us, and yet they are being driven to extinction. To that, I'd say that with how the documentary showed these experts celebrating over the fertilization of one Philippine eagle and at the end, Philippine eagle egg at the end, it truly communicated the idea that this planet and its creature are all that we have for home. Now, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, my name is Rai Lemana, and I hope you've learned something. That is all. I'll see you when I see you. Bye bye.